Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mang, and today we're going to be talking about Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective. This is a game that originally was released in the 80s, I believe, and finally got reprinted. So I finally got my hands on it, and we're going to be playing it. And I use the word game kind of loosely. It's more of an experience, I guess. And you can play with a number of people. I think it says up to 8. Yeah, 1 to 8. But I don't think anybody plays with more than 3 or 4. I will be playing by myself, partly because I can do it at my own convenience, and I can just record myself doing everything, and it's just easiest, but also partly because I feel like I'm the only one that I know that would really appreciate something like this. So what is it? Well, it's a Sherlock Holmes game. You're not playing as Sherlock Holmes, you're playing as a member of... Man, that's something I should probably... realize. The Baker Street Irregulars. Yes. His kind of little gang of mini detectives. And so, yes, you're going to be playing as a detective. We're going to be solving some cases, hopefully. Probably not as well as Holmes himself, but we're going to be solving them. And so what's going to happen is, in the box, there are 10 of these cases, these case books. And in these case books, there's going to be a little introduction which explains the case and what has happened, who we need to find, and so on and so forth. And then there's a big list of locations to go to, because the game comes with this map of Victorian era London. See, there it is, and every location has a number and a letter and so on and so forth. And so it's kind of up to us to deduce from the clues that we have, the clues that we gain, on where we should go next, and hopefully track down the culprit as quickly as possible. Also to assist us, we have the London Directory. See? And this whole book is pretty much just like a phone book. Literally, it's just names upon names upon names. And every name has a location. So if I wanted to know where Gregor Malotsky lives, he's at 49 EC, which EC is Eastern Central, I think. Yeah, it's over here, and then 49 is right there, so boom, we would go there. And there's all sorts of personal names, but then there's also business names. There's the Reuters Telegraph Agency and all sorts of stuff. So the directory is going to be very useful for finding specific locations to go to. The map is going to be useful for calculating spatial distances during crimes, figuring out how far was the crime scene away from any police station, or what was nearby, things like that. We also have at our disposal newspapers. The 10 cases that come with the book are in chronological order. The first case occurs on the 12th of March, 1888. So we have the March 12th, 1888 newspaper available to us. See? For future cases, we will have all past newspapers available to us as well, and sometimes they will hide clues in these past newspapers, as I understand it. So the newspaper has, various announcements. It has the any announcements of burglaries or cholera outbreaks. It's a newspaper. Yes, it can be useful. And that's kind of it. It's kind of free form, really. That's why I say it's a game, yes, but it's a game as, Sherlock Holmes would consider it, I guess. We also have a piece of paper and a pencil to which we can take notes. And that's pretty much it. At the end, once we've hopefully solved the case, we will compare our score against Holmes himself, who always scores 100 points. We will not score 100 points. I don't know that for sure. I've not done any of this before. You're seeing my first go through here, because there's 10 cases, and once you go through the 10 cases, the game's kind of done. You're pretty much done with it, at least maybe for the next 30 years or whatever, while it's still kind of fresh in your memory. So it's a rare board game in that there's really no replayability. Once you go through it, you're done. But as I've heard, the experience itself is so worth it that it's worth the price of admission. So we're just going to kind of go into it and see how we go into it. I'm a fan of Holmesian mysteries, and I've always kind of wanted to be a detective. I think that's really cool. I love the theme and all that. I like that. So we'll see how I do. The camera's pretty much going to stay where it is because there's not a whole lot to show you. I'm basically going to be reading to you a lot, and I'm going to be thinking aloud to you a lot. So I'll go through all of my thought processes as we go through the case, and I'll tell you everything that I read. I'll read that aloud. I'll read whatever I write down on the notepad to you, and I'll bring up the map or the directory page if I'm looking at. I'll bring up anything really relevant to show you on the screen. But other than that, just sit back and maybe you can try and solve this mystery along with me. Alright, so let's start with the introduction. The first case is the munitions magnet. Let us begin. 12th of March, 1888. Despite the lateness of the winter, March is still roaring like a lion. In fact, just as we alight from our cab in front of 221B Baker, a derby hat skitters by propelled by the fierce wind. In close pursuit is none other than Wiggins, chief of the Baker Street Irregulars, and after, Dr. Watson, Sherlock Holmes' most able assistant. Okay, I gotta get this out of the glare, it's messing with my reading. Before we can join in the chase, Wiggins manages to halt the flying bit of finery with a deft stroke of his umbrella. Cramming it squarely on his head, he saunters back towards us. "Hello," he says cheerily. "It would appear that Mr. Holmes is summoning the troops. Shall we?" With the point of his umbrella, a very versatile tool it appears, Wiggins stabs the doorbell. It is several moments before Mrs. Hudson answers. After a brief exchange of greetings, she sends us on our way to Holmes' apartment. Above, we find Holmes and Dr. Watson sitting at a table engaged in earnest conversation with a gentleman in his late 40s, expensively dressed yet somewhat rumpled in appearance. "Warm yourselves," says Holmes, "and I will explain my reasons for calling you out on such a bitter morning." Coats and hats are immediately shed. There is a distinct pop as Wiggins removes his derby, and a rush is made for the fireplace. In due course, introductions are made, and the gentleman is identified as Mr. Richard Allen, brother of the late Courtney Allen, president of the Grant Arms Company. "It is the recent death of Mr. Allen's late brother," says Holmes, that occasions his visit to us. Briefly, Courtney Allen was found shot to death in an alley behind his office on the evening of March 9th, at approximately 7 p.m. by the constable on patrol. Scotland Yard has put the crime down as a simple robbery by person or persons unknown, largely due to the fact that the victim's wallet was found empty near the body and his gold pocket watch was missing. Mr. Allen was just telling us a bit about his brother when you arrived. Please continue, Mr. Allen. Well, Courtney was a dynamic individual, always busy, forever on the move. Yet he had the unique ability to make 10 minutes spent with you seem like an hour, so complete was his attention to you. Of course, his charm worked like a magic potion on the ladies. "You said he was married?" asked Watson with a raised eyebrow. "Oh, yes. Poor Beatrice." "Was he involved in an affair at the time of his death?" asked Wiggins. "Yes, I believe he was, but I have no clue as to who the lady might have been. You see, the night before he was killed, I popped around to his office at about 5:30 and managed to coax him to supper at Keen's. We were there but a short while when Courtney begged leave. He indicated that he had an important meeting, said Auf Wiedersehen, and winked. That wink meant a woman. Is the company financially sound? Asked Watson. Oh, quite. A fine investment for anyone's portfolio. You see, the company was founded as a small gun shop some 70-odd years ago by our great-uncle Thaddeus Grant. It catered to a very elite clientele. Most of the chaps in the regiment were equipped with pistols from Grant's. Now it's Watson. Why, Braxton, you've heard me speak of Braxton Holmes. He had a pair of the finest dueling pistols. Yes, Watson. Pray continue, Mr. Allen. Courtney, always fascinated by firearms, apprenticed himself to Uncle Thaddeus. When Thaddeus died in 1873, he bequeathed the business to Courtney. While maintaining the original shop and its tradition, Courtney expanded into the international arms trade. With loans and the sale of public stock, he was able to plant at 12 Deverell Street for the manufacture of heavy ordnance. Today, the firm is debt-free and very profitable. Of course, a drop in the share price occurred with the news of my brother's death. Who has ascended to the presidency? Asked Watson. Courtney's picked successor, Philip Marlowe, the second vice president. And why not the senior vice president? Young Lord Ragland, who runs the Deverell Street plant, is a brilliant technician, but a most inept businessman. Who inherits your brother's stock? His wife, Beatrice. Now I think we might examine the effects found with your brother. So saying, Holmes turns his attention to a briefcase in a large brown envelope. It looks as if some sharp object has been used on it, comments Watson, referring to a long gouge on the leather briefcase. Yes, and it's practically brand new. I gave it to Courtney for his last birthday, January 6th. As you can see, it is locked. The police found it that way. Courtney kept the key on a chain attached to his watch fob. The watch, of course, was stolen. Holmes retrieves a long piece of wire from the coal scuttle. After gaining Allen's permission, he inserts it into the lock and with a quick flick of his wrist, springs the lock open. He pulls out 2 folders for our examination. Each is filled with company papers and is coded to indicate its contents. One marked MBC, for instance, concerns various coal mine leases. Another marked S87V contains a listing of sales to the U.S. government during the preceding year. Holmes then empties the contents of the envelope onto the table. The inventory includes spectacles and case, a ruby ring, a gold wedding band, a keychain with keys, an empty wallet, a small notebook, and a note. Seizing on the notebook, Holmes observes, "Can you tell us who Captain Egan might be, Mr. Allen? I've never heard the name." "And Billy?" "Billy is Courtney's secretary, William Lindbart." Holmes compares the writing in the notebook with that of the note. They appear to be identical. He nods and says, "I believe we have enough to begin our investigation." After Allen is gone, Wiggins comments that his hand gestures were most intriguing. Combining infinite subtlety with tremendous force, it is easy to imagine that he has no trouble making his wishes known on the floor of the London Stock Exchange. "I don't recall Allen giving out his occupation," says Watson, puzzled. "No," replies Wiggins, "but certain phrases he spoke, coupled with the pencil notations on his left shirt cuff, stock prices, surely led me to conclude that he was a stockbroker. Bravo, Wiggins!" "Well, Watson, our young man has come a long way since the days when you described him as a dirty little street urchin, eh?" "Thank you, Mr. Holmes, but after all, I was taught by the master." "True," says Holmes matter-of-factly. "Quite true." Okay. So, they don't actually read you the note that they found. They give it to you, like it's the pictures on here. You have to read it yourself, and it's tricky. I'm trying to decipher it. I see the most legible part is tonight, 10 p.m. And I'm going to guess AG. And that would be Alan Grant. Yes. Oh no, that doesn't make any sense. No, because A is... Alan's the last name. So that can't be a G. It's got to be... It looks like an M. And then SP10. I don't know if that's... SP10. That can't be a location. Something... It really looks like SP10. Okay, so let's calculate what we do know then. We have the victim as Courtney Grant. That's important. Time of death is approximately... Well, he was found at 7 p.m. on March 9th. March 9th. So we'll write that down. And it was found by the constable on patrol. Okay, so it was either a simple robbery or made to look like a simple robbery, because the wallet was found empty, gold watch stolen, and the briefcase somebody tried to enter forcefully. So we'll put robbery question mark. So he's the head of a firearms manufacturer. There's a plant at 12 Deverell Street. Now the new president was handpicked by him, Philip Marlowe. Potentially a suspect, but if he was handpicked, I don't know why he would need to really hurry things along. But we'll write his name down. The senior vice president was Lord Ragland. He runs the plant there. He's an inept businessman. So we'll write down his name. He didn't really have anything to gain from killing Courtney Grant, though. Senior VP. Head of plant. Okay. Now, his wife, Beatrice, inherited all of his stock. That's something. I'm going to write down that. Because that is probably pretty big, especially since the company was now very profitable. Okay, so I don't know if the papers in the briefcase are actually of any importance. Various coal mine leases and a listing of sales to the U.S. government from last year. Probably not. There's spectacles and case, a ruby ring, a gold wedding band, keychain with keys, alright, here's something interesting. This kind of perplexes me. Okay, so the large brown envelope is what they recovered from the scene? This is, I mean, okay. Why wouldn't they take his ring? A ruby ring and a gold wedding band. You gotta assume he was wearing it. He was having an affair. I'm going to write that down. Because that, I mean, that's pretty important if the wife is a suspect, which she is. So, he was having an affair. The robbers who took his money, took his watch, did not take his ring. Now, this could be because he was, doing the affair or something that night, and which I think there was evidence we'll get to. So maybe he took his ring off, but they didn't search his pockets or something like that. Also, there was a keychain. They didn't try the keys on the briefcase. Okay, so we're going to write down the fact that the ring was not stolen. That's pretty important. Okay. Now, okay. So that night, oh no, the night before he was killed, he was at dinner with his brother, but then he went to go see a woman. And they were at Keen's. It doesn't really give us any help as to where he had an affair. But okay, he had a notebook here. I'm going to try and decipher what's going on here. I see Betty's mother's birthday was on Thursday, March 8th. Plant 8 a.m. on the 9th, and then surprise and exclamation points. Captain Egan, 8:30 p.m. Okay, so Captain Egan, we're writing that down. His brother claims that he's never heard the name. He apparently had an appointment with Captain Egan at 8:30 p.m. on the night of his murder. He didn't make it because they found him around 7. Captain Egan could just be a red herring. It could be nothing. U.S. Embassy the next day. Something of Brixton's Mine, 10 a.m. Planting, okay. Well, that might be Billy's mother's birthday, not Betty's. Because, yeah, his secretary. Something, there's something written here that I can't quite, I think it says BIS Bishops F, 8:30 p.m. That was the day before he was murdered. That might be a clue as to the affair. So I'm going to write Bishop's F. I'm almost certain that's what it says. Okay. Alright, so then that just leaves this note that I can't really read. There's an S. It really looks, to be honest, you know what it says? It looks like Spaniard. Spaniard tonight, 10 p.m. Because it's really well done, because it's not just like a typography, like it's handwritten. So you can see where the P is the same as another P. So I think it says Spaniard tonight, 10 p.m. But I don't know if that's SP10, because that P is not written like anything else. I can't decipher that. So then AM. I don't know what that could be. That might be a clue as to who he was having an affair with. We don't know when the note is from. That's really tricky. Okay. So let's go off of what we know then. I'd like to check out the crime scene, if possible. I don't know if there's anything there. An alley behind his office. I wonder if... let me look. The Grant. You know, Grant is actually not written in here. Grant Arms Company. No, it's not written in here. Oh no, it is. 5 EC. Okay, so here... Alright, so right over here. I don't know... Okay. 12 Deverall Street. So if they give just an address, that's a bit trickier. Because then you have to actually find the street. The number given in here is not on Deverall Street. So I'm feeling like that might be where his actual office is. The plant is... I don't know, I really have to comb this map now. I'm sure by case 10 you kind of have everything memorized. Much like Holmes himself. I'm just scanning for the name Deverall. There are a lot of streets in London. I don't know if you know that, but there are plenty. Man. Be here all day. There's really no rhyme or reason. It's just streets on streets. I mean, I'm not gonna go there just yet, but I'd like to at least have a location. I likely passed right over it. I don't know if they would put their plant right near their offices. I mean, why wouldn't they? Unless it's actually labeled. I doubt it. Only really like hospitals and libraries and police stations are actually labeled. Damn it. Damn you, London. Devonshire. That's not what I'm looking for. Well, I guess I could just look for 12. I don't know if that's like a specific clue. Or the plant might not be important at all. I don't know. Maybe I'm not meant to go there because they didn't give me a location. Oh, no, I found it. Yeah, it's SE12. Alright, that's easier than just looking for the street. Okay, so the crime scene, I assume, is going to be at EC5. That's what the directory states for the Grant Arms Company. I feel like we got to go there. Well, actually, do we? What info could that provide? Something that the police missed? I mean, Sherlock pretty much always goes to the crime scene, right? That's what he does. Alright. I think we'll go there. So, 5 EC is going to be our first location we're going to go to. So then we flip through here. Try not to look at any other info because we don't want to cheat. There are plenty of locations to be had. Alright, 5 EC. By prearrangement, we meet Constable Beadle behind the Grant Arms Company in the alley parallel to Leonard Street. I noticed a strange lump up the alley. I knew right off that something was amiss. My instinct for the out of place, you might say. Watch your step there. Cobbling hereabouts is in a bad way. Many a jagged edge is made for tripping a man. We have strolled 30 feet or so from the base of a stairway that leads to the offices of Grant Arms to arrive at the juncture of a T formed with another alley that leads to Old Street. It was right here, and sad to say it was not a lump at all. Now, the victim was lying on his back, the force of the bullet having thrown him backwards. The briefcase was lying right beside the body, waist high. The wallet was lying a few feet away. The victim's overcoat was thrown open and his pocket watch was missing, but part of the chain was still attached to the vest. He was quite dead, but there was still some warmth in his bare hands, so I couldn't have missed the blighter by much. Now, I figure the perpetrator must have hid in that shed just up this second alley. When the victim approached, he jumped out and fired point blank. As you can see, it's but 5 feet from the shed to where the body lay. We thank Constable Beadle for his time and trouble. He goes back on patrol, but we linger a moment longer at the scene. From the shed, Wiggins calls to us. Seems both Scotland Yard and our perpetrator have been quite careless. His open palm reveals the remains of a cigarette. On it are the letters B and H in gold leaf. The tip end is pinched evenly all around. Beaming, Wiggins suggests that we adjourn to the offices of the Grand Arms Company to interview Allen's private secretary. Our unorthodox means of entry via the back stairway startles a young man we meet in the corridor. Fair-haired and pleasant-featured, he turns out to be William Lindbart. After introductions are made and we are seated in Lindbart's office, Wiggins asks him a question that has been nagging at all of us since the beginning. What was Mr. Allen doing in the alley? Any time he worked after hours, which was often, he would leave by the back way. It was a short walk to Old Street where the traffic was heavier and a cab more likely to be hailed. So anyone who had a passing knowledge of Mr. Allen's habits, company employees, or even business acquaintances would certainly have been aware of that practice. Yes, that's so. That evening, Mr. Allen was scheduled to meet with a Captain Egan at 8:30. Can you tell us who Captain Egan is? He's the ordnance officer in charge of purchasing for the Admiralty. Do you know what the meeting was about? He and Mr. Allen met often to discuss the special project undertaken for the Admiralty some months ago, but I was unaware of that particular meeting. Mr. Allen regularly delivered progress reports, but always during the day, and I always made the appointments. I remember that Mr. Allen asked me to put the SP number 10A folder into his briefcase. It surprised me because I was not aware of an appointment with Captain Egan. Could you tell us about this special project? It's very secret, but I suppose I can say that it involves the development of a new type of naval gun. Were there problems with the project? None that I am aware of. Mr. Allen was very concerned about security, though. While we do sell arms to foreign powers, there are certain weapons that are reserved exclusively for our own government. Special Project number 10A was such a one. Was Mr. Allen's concern over security based on a specific incident or centered on a specific person? The existence of the project was common knowledge, so I'm sure he expected a certain amount of, spying. He called in Lord Raglan to discuss the matter after several strange people were seen hanging around the Deverell Street plant. Why would the plant be under surveillance? All the technical data, blueprints, formulas, that type of thing are housed there. Our offices here are entirely administrative. Mr. Allen's brother believes that he was having an affair at the time of his death. Realizing that this is a delicate matter, would you know who the lady might have been? No, I don't. Over the years, I have always known about Mr. Allen's peccadillos, but only in the most general way. We would be working and something would trigger a cryptic remark that obviously had to do with his personal life. For example, just after the International Arms Fair opened, he received a scented letter on pink stationery. Later that day, he was dictating a memo to Lord Raglan when he stopped and picked it up. He took a full whiff of it and said aloud, "Women often marry for a title, but they won't necessarily fall in love for one." Then he laughed and went on with the memo. You're now secretary of the new president, Mr. Marlowe. Yes, he was Mr. Allen's hand-picked successor, which perfectly illustrates the kind of man Mr. Allen was. There was no love lost between them, and yet, recognizing Marlowe's outstanding business acumen, he named him as his heir, so to speak. Thank you, Mr. Linhart. You've been very helpful. Okay, that was a long one. And looking at all these other ones, there's a lot of just nothing, like dead ends, so that was quite a bit of info. Let's go through it. Bad cobbling in the alley. I don't know if that's a clue, but it sounds like something Sherlock would make note of. So, bad cobbling. Okay. So, he got shot point blank in, like, the chest. I don't know if they said. I'm going to assume the chest. And he fell backwards. So point blank from the front. Okay. 1 Victim's overcoat was thrown open and his pocket watch was missing, but part of the chain was still attached to the vest. Okay. Here's the big one then. Are the remains of a cigarette. On it are the letters B and H in gold leaf. And I'm definitely certain it's B and H. It's quite legible. So B and H in gold leaf. And it's been smoked. So B and H. Do I have any clue as to who that might be? The only B that we really have is Beatrice. Okay. Then there's a lot of stuff about Captain Egan and this naval weaponry deal. And basically, anybody who had a passing knowledge of Mr. Allen's habits would have been... So this was not a simple robbery. I'm almost certain it wasn't. Somebody had to have a knowledge that he went out this way every night and waited for him. Bishop's F. I gotta look this up. Bishop's finger in. 18 EC. 18 EC. Here. And Keynes. Where was Keynes? I don't know if that's relevant, but I want to see where Keynes is. Keynes Chop House is 37 WC. Well, that's not really close. But okay. Alright, so 18 EC is an inn. And if you recall, he had a note in his notebook the day before his murder, Bishop's F, 8:30 p.m. It's likely that that's where he went after having a brief dinner with his brother. That's probably where the affair occurred. So the question is it worth it to go visit there? Yes, we could just visit every location and eventually have all the info, but you score very lowly. So I'm trying to minimize everything. You gotta keep in mind, at this point, Sherlock has probably already figured it out. He knows what's going on. I don't know how, but... Okay, B and H. Gold leaf tells me that's more upper class. I don't think the common peasants of Victorian London are smoking gold leaf cigarettes. It just doesn't seem right. So we'll assume somebody a bit more wealthy. B and H. Like, to have your own initials emblazoned on your cigarettes, that seems like even more... Yeah, that seems really big. But if the B is Beatrice, which I'd like it to be, who is the H? And why would she have initials on cigarettes? Like, why go through all the trouble of that? Unless it was really important. There's no H that I know of. Not on my list. And if... I wish I had more info about the woman. Likely, there was something else curious mentioned by the secretary. He said, okay, well, for one, women often marry for a title, but they won't necessarily fall in love for one. That seems like a hint towards Beatrice. That she married just for the title and the money and all that, but didn't really love the guy. So that's a clue, I think. I'm going to put another line under affair and an arrow to Beatrice, and yes. Okay, so he said, "You're now secretary of the new president, Mr. Marlowe." Mr. Marlowe, yes. He was Mr. Allen's hand-picked successor, which perfectly illustrates the kind of man Mr. Allen was. There was no love lost between them. And yet, recognizing Marlowe's outstanding business acumen, he named him as his heir, so to speak. Why would there be love lost? Why would there be love lost? We would need more info for that. Something apparently happened in their past, and yet Courtney Allen apparently got over it to enough to name him his successor. I think Captain Egan has got to be just a... That's got to be a red herring. I don't think it means anything. Because the ring is such a big detail, I feel. Why would they not take a ruby ring gold wedding band? That leads me to think so much that, Beatrice killed him and then said, you can keep that ring, as some sort of, poetic justice. I don't know. The problem is, I don't want to twist facts to suit a theory, so I don't want to follow that too closely. I'd love to speak to Beatrice, but I don't know. I'm going to look up in the directory. We're going to go to Allen. Okay, I have an address for Courtney Allen and Richard Allen. So I think we should go to Courtney Allen. I think we should go to his house. There's got to be something there, right? There's got to be some detail we could find. So that's 14 NW. I'm going to write down 5 EC as our first location and 14 NW as our second location. I want to keep track. He lived across London from where he worked. I don't think that means anything, but just remarking. Wait, what? 14 NW. It says the Bagatelle Card Club. Does that seem right? NW. Yeah, that's the location it gives for Courtney Allen. 14 NW, the Bagatelle Card Club. Is that a clue at all? I don't think so. I'm gonna assume no. We're going there. I already wrote it down. We're going there, so let's go check it out. Our interview with Mrs. Allen is mercifully short. She answers our indelicate questions with a quiet, calm dignity that convinces us she knows nothing of her husband's murder that would be of any help to us. Okay. That's a bust then. That's terrible. We have to change our presumptions. If Beatrice isn't involved at all, who would stand to profit from his death? Marlowe was named the successor of a very profitable company. I mean, maybe he had him killed just to further things along, but I doubt it. There's Lord Ragland, who is not named the successor. But killing the guy doesn't change who the successor is. Then there's Captain Egan, but I don't see how that would affect anything. SP number 10A. Was that found in his briefcase? No. Ah! That's where you miss a clue, baby. So originally in the briefcase that we found during the opening was MB-C and S-87-U. It says here that Mr. Allen asked me to put the SP number 10-A folder into his briefcase. So that's no longer there. I feel like I may be going back to the theory that it was made to look like a robbery and made to look like they broke into the briefcase so that we assumed nothing was stolen from the briefcase, but maybe they did take it. This SP number 10A. Okay, so now I thought Captain Egan was a red herring. Let's rethink this. So this was kind of a secret meeting because his secretary was not even made aware, and his secretary seemed to know stuff. He was very concerned about security. There were several strange people seen hanging around the Deverall Street plant. Okay. We know... I think... Hold on. We don't know where he was meeting Captain Egan. Spaniard tonight, 10 p.m. That still just bugs me. Is Spaniard listed in here in any capacity? Spaniard's Inn. That's another inn. So he had Bishop's Finger Inn on the 8th, and then this note, which I can't decide when it's from, the Spaniard Inn at tonight at 10 p.m. I think it's AH, maybe AM. I feel like the whole affair thing and Beatrice, I feel I gotta ignore that for now. The Captain Egan thing is more pressing. I shouldn't even go on to speak to Beatrice. I think we gotta go to the plant. I think that SE12, I feel like there's going to be some clues there. I'm writing it down. We're going to check it out. Alright, SE12. Okay. It's a lengthier one. Good. I'm glad. We enter the typically grimy manufacturing environment of the Deverall Street plant. Lord Ragland ain't here, but I could show you to Mr. Kehoe's office. He's the governor's assistant. It is evident that Walter Kehoe has come up through the ranks and would be more comfortable in overalls than his present ill-fitting tweeds. With a meaty paw, he tugs at his shirt collar and asks us our business. Can you tell us anything about Mr. Allen's visit here on the morning of March 9th? Odd, I thought it was. So as I remember right enough, Mr. Allen comes to see his nibs, Lord Ragland, but he weren't here. Mr. Allen says he'll wait in the office. Do you know why Mr. Allen came to see Lord Ragland? Now, I wouldn't be knowing their business, but it was most likely about Project Number 10, it being secret and all. There was hangers-on around the plant, foreigners and whatnot. Do you know what transpired when Lord Ragland returned? What? Well, he never did return, leastways not before Mr. Allen left. I was called away, and when I gets back, Mr. Allen, he hands me a note. Says it come for Lord Ragland, and I was to be sure he gets it. He also says that he'll see Lord Ragland some other time, and perhaps it's best I don't even mention that he come by. Lord Ragland was in a bit later, stayed for a couple hours, and left for the day. Odd it was. A begrimed workman enters and informs Kehoe of some problems with a piece of machinery. I'll be back in a moment, gents. Why don't you wait in Lord Ragland's office? Left to our own devices when Kehoe and the workmen leave, we can't but notice a drawer in Ragland's desk partially open. And of course we can't help but peek in. We do not discover much of interest, only a stack of invoices and a bundle of stock certificates. One of the invoices is from Radford Jones S.C. Company for 140 guineas. It is dated September 5th, 1887, and stamped paid March 10th, 1888. The stock certificates are in 5,000 share denominations for several different companies, among them Rafferty Paper Mills and Stevenson Iron Works. We managed to close the drawer just before Kehoe returns. A little kick in the slats always does the trick. Now where were we? That's a very impressive safe. All plans are kept under lock and key, to be sure. Would you take us to someone who could tell us about Project Number 10? Well, the only one around now would be Richard Camp. He was an engineer on the project. Not on it anymore, but he can tell you a thing or two. Kehoe leads us back to his office and out into the corridor. The noise of the plant, curiously insulated in Ragland's office, grows stronger as we approach Camp's office. We knock and enter, but the office is vacant. He may be down on the line, let me check. Kehoe's second absence gives us a chance to prowl around Camp's office. The desk is littered with plans and formula notations, none of which means anything to us. Next to a cigar humidor is a framed photograph of a young woman. She is very pretty, with extremely long dark hair, and she radiates a bright, dimpled smile. Somewhat blurred in the background is a vaguely familiar cathedral with two square-topped towers. Before we can rummage further, Kehoe returns. Mr. Camp left early, it seems, not feeling well. Well, thank you for your time. Okay. Okay. The plot thickens. Cathedral. Is that going to be marked on here? There's Westminster Abbey. I know about that one. Is that a vaguely familiar cathedral with two square-topped towers? I don't know enough about London. I'm trying to see if I have to go somewhere to read a newspaper or if I can just read the newspaper. I think I can just read it, to be honest. If I'm not allowed to read it just for free, then I'll penalize myself later. But I want to look through this real quick. There might not be anything useful in here. Because what are the odds, really? Yeah, it's basically like reading a newspaper just from 1888. I'm just scanning for names or subjects that would be of interest to the case. I mean, there's so many leads that you could potentially go on, you know? It's like, how do you sort out the bullshit? I know it's kind of boring just to watch me read a newspaper, but if there's anything interesting, I would mention it. There's Steinway and Sons pianos. Reminds me very much of Call of Cthulhu. I don't know, I've not seen much. Arms Trade Fair closes. The International Arms Trade Fair, which opened at the Royal Agricultural Hall March 4th, closed yesterday with a 21-gun salute to the Queen, which reverberated around the city. Closing ceremonies began earlier in the awarding of gold medals for excellence. Accepting 5 medals on behalf of the Krupp Works was the Countess von Schulenburg, bride of 5 months to the German military attache, and the archetype of the fair-haired Rhine maiden. Gold medal was also awarded to the Societe Bacri Frères and accepted by Émile Zobar, French military attache. Hector del Guerra, military attache to the Spanish embassy, stirred the large crowd with a magnificent speech. The affair was marred by several demonstrators sporting anti-arms placards. Alexei Meshkov, Russian military attache, was struck in the head by a tomato. Not sure if that actually gave me any info. I don't think so. I want to gather info from that, but I don't think there's anything. There's some stuff about burglaries, but nothing specific. Egypt, no. I'm going to say no. Not that I can glean. If I miss something from there, then I feel bad, but... So let's go back to what we know then. There was some suspicious activity that day. I think we can say that safely enough. Mr. Allen came there for a visit, and the foreman, or whatever, or the governor's... No, I don't know. I don't know who this guy is. The foreman, I'll say. Thought it was strange that he came. Must have been like a surprise visit. And I think actually, if we go back, hold on. Yeah, Friday, March 9th, plant, 8 a.m. Surprise. Why make a surprise visit to the plant? Why do that? And he came to see Lord Raglan. Most likely about project number 10. There were people hanging around the plant, foreigners. People wanted to find out about this thing. Maybe that's why he made the surprise visit, to keep them on their toes. He'll come for Lord... Okay. Be sure that Lord Raglan gets this note. He says he'll see Lord Raglan some other time, and perhaps it's best I don't even mention that he come by. And then Lord Raglan came in, stayed for a couple hours, and left. Odd it was. Did Courtney Allen find something in Lord Raglan's office that he didn't like? Lord Raglan might be a suspect, because we found a drawer that a bunch of invoices and stock certificates. That Lord Raglan was apparently selling stock shares for guineas. No. He was buying guinea. Or he was buying stocks. Radford Jones SC Company. What is that? Radford Jones and Company. It's a possible location. Could just be nothing. Guineas. What currency is that? I could look it up, but that cheats. That cheats. Even though I think maybe if I was a detective around this time, I'd probably know. But guineas is not a London-based currency, I don't think. Unless I'm really dumb. I might be, actually. Somebody's watching this and be like, oh, man. Okay. I'm going to go under the assumption it's a foreign currency, but I don't know if it matters that much. Okay. So there's an invoice from this company for 140 guineas, dated September 5th, 1887. So months back. Stamped, paid, March 10th, 1888. So the day after he's murdered. So that was just sitting there for that long and then finally gets paid the day after the head of the entire company is murdered. That's suspicious now. I don't know what this company is, but I want to find out. Then there are stock certificates from other companies, paper mills and Stevenson Iron Works. I don't know what that is. He's buying into other stocks. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what's going on there. But I feel like I gotta check out this Radford Jones and Company. I think I'm going there. 11 WC. We're going. It's a done deal. It's always just like, oh, this is gonna suck. This is not gonna be anything. 11 WC. Okay. The proprietor of Radford Jones and Company is caught between a natural reticence to talk about his client's financial affairs in general and a biting urge to speak about Lord Raglan's in particular. After all, a gentleman's tailor is second only to a gentleman's gentleman as a paragon of discreet and loyal service. But the slight done him, which involves money, is too much to contain, and he chooses to speak rather than keep silent. It took us 7 full months to collect that bill. 140 guineas. Why, I almost had to resort to the courts. Not that it would have done me much good at the time. If all the tradesmen to whom Lord Raglan owed money were lined end to end, they would have stretched across the city. Of course, everything righted itself. I don't mind telling you, however, when he comes for a fitting these days, we have our payment in hand before we proceed. That may have been all worthless to me. So Radford Jones and Company is a tailor. I wonder if it says that on here. Could I have avoided this? No, it doesn't say. I would have no idea. I mean, no, I would have no idea. Okay. I still find it very odd he paid that bill after 7 months, the day after the murder. I feel like he came into some money because of the murder. Again, it could just be a coincidence, but if my boss happened to just be murdered, I'm not sure if the next day my priority would be go out and pay my bill for my suit. That seems fishy. I don't like it. So, I'm going to write down profit question mark for Lord Raglan. How did he profit from the murder? We still don't know his first name, by the way. Could be anything. They never say it. They always say Lord Raglan. If it was a B or an H, I'd have a solid clue. Okay, so let's work through this in our head then. Lord Raglan knows all about this special project. Like, he was like the head technician on it. Big deal. He wasn't picked as the successor. That probably pissed him off, because there's a lot of money in being the head of a company. So he, oh yeah, we're forgetting that papers were stolen from the briefcase. I didn't write that down. I'm forgetting about it. So papers stolen. Okay. So he's developing special weapon projects with Lord Raglan. It's all detailed in this folder, right? Very secretive. Very secretive. Other people want this info. Competitors, so on and so forth. So they creep around the plant. Maybe they get into, talking to Lord Raglan. He agrees to get this folder from Courtney Grant and sell it to them, selling company secrets and all that. He profits big, goes out, pays his suit bills and all that, feeling all swag, shit like that. That's a theory. We can't twist facts, but that's a theory right now. Okay, so I don't think, again, I'm going back to the affair meaning nothing. I don't think it means anything. I don't think Lord Raglan had anything really personal. I think this was pure business, personally. I think he killed him to sell secrets. The problem is, who did he sell secrets to? Also, for the record, I don't know how this ends. Oh, okay, so once you are ready, once we think we've solved the case, you move on to the question phase. And so you have to answer a bunch of questions, and then you calculate your score. I feel like if I go into the question phase now, I'm not certain enough. I want to be a bit more certain about Lord Raglan. He's my prime suspect, though, as of right now. So I think we got to pay a visit to his residence. I think that could potentially be the final location we go to. So we're going to look up Raglan. Maybe I can get a first name from the directory. Lord Henry Raglan. B and H. Beatrice and Henry? I'm tempted to not even go here and just work off of that. But that's not Holmesian. You don't want to do that. So this is going to be the last one. 5 locations I'm doing. Unless something contradicts heavily here. Or we get shot. I don't know. 56 SW. We're going. We're going. Get pumped. SW. 56. Lord Raglan's man, Bunting, admits us to the residence and shows us into the study to wait. We are almost as impressed by Lord Raglan's establishment as we are with Lord Raglan himself when he arrives. At 30, he is the picture of the English gentleman, impeccably groomed with a grace and style at once attractive and forbidding. The introduction completed, he separates himself from us by walking to the other side of the desk. Seating himself, he asks us to begin. But before we can, however, he notices an envelope on the desk and immediately calls for Bunty. Drummond's has slipped up again. See that this is posted immediately. Excuse me, gentlemen. Debit where a credit should be, or some such. Please begin. On the night of Mr. Allen's murder, he had an appointment with Captain Egan. Yes, the purchasing officer for naval ordnance at the Admiralty. We were working on a secret project for the Admiralty, and Courtney was concerned about one of the engineers, Richard Camp, being a security risk. We discussed it that morning. I gave no credence to the idea. Lord Raglan pauses to reach into a small silver box. From it, he draws forth a cigarette which has a B and H printed on it in gold leaf. He inserts it into an ebony cigarette holder, lights it, and leans back. Without our prompting, he continues. No, Camp is a fine fellow, but as a concession to Egan, I removed him from the project and assigned him elsewhere. Tragic, Courtney's death. To think that I had intended to stop by the offices that evening, but was forced to work late at the plant. If I had, perhaps the thief would have thought twice before tackling into us. Were you disappointed about not being named president? You were, after all, senior vice president. Not a bit of it. I'm quite happy in my work in the technical areas. Administrative matters do not interest me. Besides, one of Marlowe's conditions of employment was that he succeeds Courtney when Courtney retired. Of course, that would not have been for many years. Thank you, Lord Raglan. Alright, caught him in his bullshit right there. Look, he said, I had intended to stop by the offices that evening, but was forced to work late at the plant. But we know that mother effer left early, so it's either him or it's somebody that did very well at setting him up. It would either be Marlowe, but I doubt it, or the guy at the plant whose name we didn't even get, who said that he left early. I doubt that guy. I'm going with Lord Raglan. We're going to finish this right now. We're going to go to the question phase. I don't care. I got my suspect. I got my suspect. Alright, questions. Part 1. Who killed Courtney Allen? Lord Henry Raglan, no problem. Done. Why was he murdered? Well, I guess to sell... Partly revenge, partly to sell company secrets. To sell company secrets. And I'll put comma revenge. What was the significance of the message found in Courtney Allen's notebook? What message? What message you talking about? I don't know. There's not really a message in here. There's just a lot of appointments. There's the note. Is that what they're referring to? Because he was having an affair. Okay, reading the rest of the questions, I apparently didn't do enough investigating, but who cares? We caught him! Trust me! Okay, so, the significance of the message found in Courtney Allen's notebook, I don't know. He was having an affair. Not my problem. I feel like I'm taking a quiz, and I didn't study. And Mr. Holmes is going to be very disappointed. What was the reason for Richard Camp's visits to the French embassy? I don't know. Why was the tip of the cigarette found at the scene of the crime pinched all around evenly? See, that makes me feel like it was a setup. I'm just going to put smoked, but I doubt that's correct. Who was Courtney Allen's paramour at the time of his death? I don't know. I didn't think it was important. What was special about the weapon used to kill Courtney Allen? Yeah, that I could have figured out, and that was actually on my list, was to go to the criminologist or the coroner's office, but I didn't. How could Wiggins easily make 10 pounds? What? I don't know. So I answered 4 of the 8, and I don't think I did a good job. Alright, so the solution. We are gathered once again at 221B Baker Street, comparing notes and discussing the case, trying to unravel its many threads when Holmes finally speaks. From the outset, it was obvious that the theft of Mr. Allen's wallet was but a decoy for the perpetrator's real intent. Yeah. In the first place, it is unlikely that a common criminal would have overlooked 2 valuable rings. Told you. And, in the second, simple robbery would not explain the absence of a folder marked SP number 10-A in the briefcase. I told you. See, I got all that, Holmes. I got you. But the briefcase was found locked, protests Watson. As far as we know, Allen locked it and remained so until you yourself sprang it open. I might add that I was quite shocked at your adeptness at such larceny. To study the criminal is to acquire knowledge of criminal methods. In any case, the murderer must have opened it, as evidenced by the spread eagle position of the body and the placement of the brief guard with regards to it. As Allen was shot, his arms described an arc out and away from the body. The briefcase then appears to have been flung some distance, as indicated by the gouge in the leather, caused by its scraping along the jagged cobbles. Damn, that's good. I didn't even see. That's Holmesian right there. That's deductive reasoning. I thought they took a knife to it, but no, I didn't put it together properly. bad cobbling, which I wrote down. Jagged, briefcase, gouge, yes, good. Yet it was found beside the body and, more significantly, waist high, exactly the right position for the murderer to have retrieved it and brought it to the key on Allen's catch fob. Knowing that the contents of the folder were central to the murder and that the code stood for Special Project Number 10, a new naval gun for the Admiralty, it was a simple matter to call 2 suspects from the customer list of Benson and Hedges Imperial brand smokers. Shit! Benson and Hedges. That makes so much more sense, though, that it was the brand of the cigarette, not people's initials. The cigarette found at the scene was, of course, a Benson and Hedges cigarette. You must mean Count von Schulenburg and Emil Zobar, the military attachés from Germany and France, ventures Wiggins. No, not at all. Remember, all technical data was kept at the Deverell Street plant. Folder SP number 10A-A, like the others in Allen's briefcase, contained only administrative data that would be of little or no use to a foreign power. It could, however, contain something that would be damaging to a company employee. Therefore, the 2 significant names on the Benson and Hedges list were those of Lord Raglan and Richard Camp. Captain Egan, quite unintentionally, went a long way toward clearing Camp. A visit to the plant completed the job. His visits to the French embassy were certainly suspicious, asserts Watson. The photographs on his desk explain them perfectly. The church in the background with the unfinished towers is the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. How am I supposed to know that? Mr. Camp's lady love is French and lives at the French embassy. Further, I suspect that the lady has some familiar relationship to Emil Zobar. The Benson and Hedges Imperials, purchased by Mr. Camp, a cigar smoker, were intended as a gift for Monsieur Zobar. By that process of elimination, then, Lord Raglan is our man. But why? What was the damaging information in the folder? Asked Watson. From the cryptic wire sent to Egan and the note concerning Spaniards intercepted by Allen, which, by the way, explains why a note signed A.M. was in Allen's handwriting, it is clear that Raglan was selling Special Project Number 10 to a foreign power. Whatever evidence Allen had was in the folder and about to be taken to Captain Egan. I believe Mr. Allen went to the plant that morning to confront Lord Raglan with that evidence. When he intercepted the note, he saw a chance to catch Raglan and A.M. Alexei Meshkov, military attaché at the Russian embassy, red-handed. He set up the meeting with Egan and was ready to pounce. Alexei Meshkov, that was in the newspaper and I glossed over it. I'm dumb. Raglan, for his part, was either told of Allen's surprise visit and the intercepted note, or else he detected something amiss with the note itself. He probably waited during the day for the axe to fall, and when it didn't, he realized that Allen was playing a waiting game. He took up station in the alley, knowing that Allen would come that way, and shot him. Well, I got the right suspect. That's the most important part. Holmes has solved this case by following 4 leads. He first visited the crime scene and the Grant Society of Armaments, 5 EC. Okay, so that's where I went first. Me and Holmes, right along. He then investigated the cigarette butt by going straight to its maker, Benson and Hedges. Okay. I went to 14 NW, he went to 16 NW. Okay, I gotta remember that for future. That was a very big piece of evidence, and I kind of overlooked it. Then he met Captain Egan at the Admiralty. Okay, so I didn't go to Captain Egan. I guess I probably should have. I thought it was a red herring, but I need to think a bit more. And thanks to the name of the street obtained at the Grant Society of Armaments and the map of London, he finally went to the Deverell Street manufacturer plant. His score is 100 points. Okay, for this case, the leads at 47 NW, 61 EC, 9 SW, 34 SW, and 38 SW, and 59 SW are free. Don't count them when totaling your score. Okay, well, I didn't go to any of those places, so alright. Who killed Courtney Allen? Lord Raglan. 25 points. Yes! 25 points! Yeah! Why was he murdered? He discovered that Lord Raglan was about to sell SP number 10A to a foreign power. I don't know if I can count that one for me. I mean, I kinda can. To sell company secrets. I'm gonna give it to myself. I need all the help I can get. I was pretty much along the same line. The significance of the message was... Okay, that's where the sale of the SP number 10A to Alexei Meshkov took place. Okay. Reason for Richard Camp visiting the French embassy. He was visiting his fiancée. I didn't get that. Why was the tip of the cigarette found at the scene of the crime pinched all around evenly? Because it was smoked through a cigarette holder. Okay, so I put it was smoked, but I'm not going to give myself that one because the fact that it was in a cigarette holder is a bigger clue than it just being smoked. So I'm not going to give my that one. Courtney Allen's paramour at the time of his death was Countess von Schulenburg. The weapon used to kill Courtney Allen was a weapon from the Grant Society. And Wiggins could easily make 10 pounds by returning the earring to the Countess von Schulenburg. See the ad in the newspaper. It was lost during her meeting with Allen at the Bishop's Finger. What? I remember reading about a missing earring. I swear to God. Where was that at? Oh, man. That was mentioned. I'm going to look because I swear it said it. Oh, 10 pounds reward. Lost on March 8th, an earring consisting of a teardrop emerald circled by diamonds. Whoever will take same to 51 Cadogan Street, SW, shall receive their reward. Yep. Bummer. To tally your score, add the points obtained by answering the questions, then count the number of leads you followed, don't count the free ones, then compare the number of leads you followed to that of Holmes. 4 leads in this case. If you followed more leads than Holmes, subtract 5 points from your score for each extra lead. Okay, so I had 50 points, and then I think I followed more. So I only had 2 of the same as him. Yes. I had 2 of the same, so I had 3 more. So that's 15. So my total score is 35. Yeah! Compared to his 100. Yeah! And that is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. Clearly I did terribly. No doubt. But I did find who the killer was within only 5 leads. I was kind of impressed by that. I think it may be worth it to perhaps do a bit more investigating to find a bit more info than I did. I was very concerned with going to the least number of places, but I ended up not getting enough info. But even then, I don't know, I guess Sherlock Holmes has to be able to answer all the questions by just where he went. He must have. He must be able to. I don't know how he knows who... Dude, it's Sherlock Holmes, man. He knows everything. I don't know. So yeah, that is case 1, the munitions magnet. Obviously, I did not go through the entirety of this book. I missed so much stuff. But now that I've done it, now that I've done this, I pretty much can't do this again for quite a while, because I know who killed him, and man, it's going to take many years for me to forget that Lord Raglan killed the guy. So, because that's a very memorable name. Unfortunately, if you've watched this whole video, that means you also will probably never be able to do this one. Now, if this whole experience piqued your interest, and how could it not, you can still pick up the game, go through the other 9 cases, and have a blast, like I did. But I think I'm probably going to continue making videos for the rest of the cases. If you have no intention of going through here and you just enjoy me thinking it through and failing, then by all means continue to watch. But if you want to experience it on your own, I highly recommend picking it up. I really enjoyed this. This is like, I knew before I even got the game that like this was going to be my thing. I would really like this because I love detective stuff. I really do. And this just, oh man, you feel like they capture it so well that it's just, there's so much, just like, you know, in real life, or you watch throughout the whole thing, I couldn't get, you know, the new Sherlock show out of my head. I was thinking about that so much, and it's both a testament to this game and a testament to how well that show is done, that it's just like, this feels like Holmes, you know? And it's just like, there's so much bullshit that you know, you need to ignore to just narrow in on what's important. That whole affair stuff, and Beatrice, like, I suspected Beatrice very heavily until I realized, like, that's really dumb. This is much bigger than that. This is much bigger than just a love killing. But, oh man, I can't wait to get into the other 9 cases. I'm really excited. And whether you join me for those other 9 cases, or you decide to just do them on your own, or forget about this whole thing entirely, yeah, I am having fun with it. That's for sure. So, my name is Mang. This has been Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. And I'll see you fine folks around.